I'm Carly with Kele. I sit down with our experts at Kele to dig into the questions and concerns we hear most from our Kele customers in the field. Today, I'm with Randy, and we'll be talking about why nuisance alarms in a building automation system are the most dangerous alarm. So Randy, how do nuisance alarms develop?
Well, there's usually a couple of ways that happens, Carly. Here's the first one. You'll ask a customer when you're setting up the system, which alarms do you want to see? And the customer responds with something like, all of them. That means they're going to get thousands of alarms in the system. So if you set up too many alarms in the system, you're going to end up with a bunch of them being nuisance alarms. The other thing that often happens is that the alarm parameters, the high and low side of the alarm, are set too close together. When that happens, very small changes in the operation of the system will trigger an alarm. Do you really need to know when the room temperature goes out of set point by 1/4 of a degree? Or wouldn't it be better to set the alarm parameters wider so you don't get a bunch of nuisance alarms?
What tends to happen to operator behavior over time with repeated false alarms?
Well, it's just like anything else. When you get a bunch of nuisance alarms, what do you start to do? You ignore them.
Absolutely. What would you say the consequence of overriding, ignoring, or disabling alarm points is?
Well, it can really have some bad consequences. It's typical for our service people to go into a building and take a look at a building automation system and find hundreds or thousands of unacknowledged alarms in the system. Most of those alarms are nuisance alarms. They don't really mean anything, or they're telling you something that you don't really need to hear. And if you ignore that over a period of time, what happens when you get the really critical alarm? Like the chiller is down in the middle of the night when the temperature is 90 degrees outside, and you ignore that alarm. Now all of a sudden you've got a really big problem because you've ignored an alarm that you really needed to respond to.
Tell me about the right fix to this.
Well, the right fix is to have a really good, clear conversation as a controls contractor with the building owner that you're working for. Which alarms do you really need to see? And what do you need to do with those alarms? Who needs to receive those alarms? And how do they need to receive them? Is it a local buzzer that goes off? Is it a text message that gets sent to a phone? Is it an email that gets sent to a certain person? You really need to have that conversation and walk through with the building owner what information they really need to get alarms on and which they can safely ignore. And then set those alarms up so that they're getting the information that they really need to get, where they need to get it, when they need to get it, so they can take action on things that are really important.
Are there any practices that can be put into place to help with nuisance alarms?
Sure, there's a couple of things that building owners and controls contractors can do. One of the things you can do is try widening out the deadbands on your alarm thresholds or setting them a little more loosely than what you've had before. But probably the most important thing is just to have a regular conversation around these things. Are our alarm thresholds working like they should? Are we getting the alarms we should be getting? Are things working the way they should be working so that when we get an alarm, somebody's taking action on it? And are we reviewing those processes regularly to make sure that it's still working for us the way that we need it to work?
Awesome. Well, Randy, thanks so much for telling us more about nuisance alarms.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks for watching.